Hey, it's time. It's time. Oh god, this little part of my life. It's called happiness.
Deep in the forest, by Bonny Village, lies the
Yes.
shed skin of a great serpent.
Mm-hmm.
Why it's here is a mystery, one the community has yet to unravel. We know
Oh.
from Rykard's lore that serpents like this are reviled, but we don't know why. We don't know why Mesmer has his two-winged companion.
I'm guessing he's gonna speak about either an outer god or we know the ritual with the snakes requires them to eat people. Maybe people look down on that.
We don't know why an abyssal serpent writhes within him, nor why Marika, in her fear, sealed it away.
Mm-hmm.
But the less we know, the
Ooh.
more infinite the possibility.
God, I remember this fight. I purposely lost a few times because it was so good. I didn't want to beat him too fast. It was a bit too easy. At first, it felt impossible. After the first try, I thought, God damn, this shit's gonna be impossible. And then took me like four more tries, and I said, okay, no. I wanna enjoy this more. So I purposely lost a few times. But yeah.
And that is what makes Elden Ring's lore so mesmerizing.
Yep. And so too was Shadowburn.
The circumstances of Mesmer's birth are the most fascinating thing about him. Who was his father? When was he?
I remember I used to theorize before it came out that since he's a redhead and all the giants are redhead, I remember having a theory that maybe his father was a giant.
Born? Why was he the vessel for both a malevolent snake and an unquenchable fire? That first question is probably the easiest to answer.
It's a Dark Souls reference, obviously. His whole character is just a reference.
Mesmer's father is most likely Radagon.
Oh,
For one, Mesmer bears Radagon's
Yep. This is the most likely reason, but I hope not.
signature red hair.
Yeah.
Second, his boss music seems to carry similar leitmotifs from Radagon's own theme. And third, most importantly, Mesmer has his own butterfly. This is the black pyrefly, which burns in dark and slender ribbons of fire. Named so for Mesmer's habit of making a pyre out of his defeated foes. This butterfly is symbolic of his identity, and it's a dark counterpart to the butterflies of Melina, Melania, and Mikola, who are the other children of Marika and Radagon. But this parentage poses
God, I love the butterfly thing. It's such a cool concept.
a problem for us. Usually, we can place Marika's children along the timeline based on her consort. We know that Godwyn, Moog, and Morgoth were born of Marika's union with Godfrey, as the age of the Erd Tree was beginning. We know Rani, Rykard, and Radahn were born of Radagon's union with Renala at the conclusion of the Leonian Wars. And we know that Mikola and Melania were twins born of Marika's marriage to Radagon, after Radagon returned to become the second Elden Lord.
Yep.
But since Marika could immaculately conceive with her other half at any time, Mesmer, like Melina, could have been born whenever it was convenient to Marika, which makes it way harder to place him upon the timeline. Fortunately though, we do have some clues. The first comes from the statue of Marika with Mesmer in her arms. Here, you'll notice that Marika's left braid of hair has been severed. The loss of this hair is an important moment in Marika's story, for after she ascended as a god, she returned home and made an offering of her golden braid to the grandmother.
How the hell do people notice that detail? Holy shit. I got the golden braid. I didn't notice that at all.
Of her old village. So, from this statue, we know that Marika had already ascended as a god when she had Mesmer, though perhaps that goes without saying. Our next clue comes to us from the remembrance of the wild boar rider, which, especially in the Japanese description...
God damn it, I love and hate this fucking fight. I got there didn't know it was a boss fight. I was just exploring. I was like, I'm sure I'm gonna get a bonfire soon. You know what I mean? As a side of grace. And I get a fucking boss fight and I lose all my runes. God fucking damn it. It was a bunch of them too. Like 5 levels.
Makes it quite clear that Mesmer was an elder brother to Radahn. For context, Radahn was the son of Radagon and Renala, the champion of gold and the queen of Caria, who were wed at the Church of Vows following the First and Second Leonian Wars. So, Mesmer was born early enough that Radahn looked up to him like an older brother. But what else can help us place him? Well, one great suggestion comes from the community. As the theory goes, Mesmer the Impaler might have been present during Godfrey's war against the fire giants. The main piece of evidence? The giant corpses are impaled upon spears, a signature of Mesmer.
Oh. See, that makes the timeline kind of iffy. If Radagon is his father, because Radagon got the red hair by being cursed by the giants after the war or near the end. That timeline kind of doesn't make sense to me then. If Mesmer was already alive and he was already killing giants.
Mesmer the Impaler.
Yeah.
Perhaps this is where he earned his title.
But I see. That would make perfect sense. Yeah.
Further support for this theory comes from the fact that Mesmer is technically a knight referred to as Sir Mesmer, and such knighthood is typically earned through notable deeds in battle. Perhaps these were the deeds that led to him becoming known as the Impaler. All that said, this theory isn't perfect. You'll note that the spears impaling the giants don't perfectly match Mesmer's own. Instead, they're actually a perfect match for these stakes in the nearby camps of the Thorn Sorcerers. This strongly suggests that it was the Thorn Sorcerers, not Mesmer, that may have been responsible for the giants impaling. However, if you still prefer to believe that Mesmer was involved here, then there is still a way to argue for it. User Tyrion Bananaster on Reddit makes the great point that Mesmer's modern spear was remade by the forging arts of the Realm of Shadow, a fact that might help to account for this visual discrepancy. It really comes down to you. Did Mesmer develop his impaling technique here alongside the Thorn Sorcerers? It's possible, but...
Nah, I think he got the title by fighting in the Shadow Realm. Merely because of what I said. My timeline, it's that Radagon got cursed by the giants, and then the war kind of ended, and then Mesmer is born. So that places Mesmer after the war for me.
It's far from a bygone conclusion. Let's move on to the other evidence surrounding Mesmer's birth. According to Godric's Great Rune, the first demigods were the Elden Lord Godfrey and his offspring, the Golden Lineage. If we take this at face value, it certainly seems to suggest that Mesmer wasn't Marika's firstborn. Instead, it seems like that title would go to one of Godfrey's children. Most likely Godwyn, though perhaps even Mohg or Morgoth. That said, while I do take most item descriptions...
Godwyn always struck to me as the youngest of the oldest, if that makes sense.
As absolute truths, this line about the first demigods gives me pause because it reminds me of that other item description that claims Godfrey is the first Elden Lord when he's not. Placidusax is. In truth, Godfrey was merely considered the first Elden Lord, and so I wonder if calling Godfrey and his golden lineage the first demigod...
He was the first Elden Lord for the tree, for the golden tree, but there was another tree before. I think that's what it meant. That's what it meant with Godfrey.
Might be a similar piece of propaganda.
Yeah.
So, was Mesmer formally considered a part of the golden lineage, or, more likely, was he a bastard demigod, born before Godfrey, or after, and shunned by him? It's certainly up to your own interpretation. Whatever the case, one thing is certain. Mesmer has lived for a very long time.
Yep.
what his helm description calls an eternity of suffering.
Hmm.
Another
That makes sense. Um, how long was Radagon just wandering around the desert? That alone is a long, long, long ass time. And he's older than that.
thing that helps convince me of Mesmer's old age is the fact that we know so little about the dark kindling and the wicked serpent within him. Thus, I feel like his birth could have been closer to a dark period within the lore
Yeah.
when we know little. Mesmer isn't the only child of Marika cursed with unwelcome entities inside of him. Many of Marika's other children with Radagon too appear to have been suitable hosts. The clearest example of this is Melania, who was inhabited at birth by the outer god of rot, and her lore seems to suggest that being the child of a single god is the precursor for this phenomenon where they can be.
Yeah. There's something about, that Game of Thrones type birth between Malika and herself that makes them susceptible, which is interesting.
Inhabited or cursed. It's as if these children are born more vulnerable than others. And it's as if Marika is able to put this vulnerability to use sometimes. A great example of that is Melina, who I'd hazard is an incarnation of a certain Glowmide Queen. Since Marika is said to have defeated the Glowmide Queen, Melina's existence may have been a deliberate act, with Marika allowing her enemy to be reborn within her own child, perhaps as a means of wielding the fire within her. For Melina was given.
I didn't take it as that. I remember the theory that she was the Glowman Queen. It makes sense, but I didn't take it as her being like inside of the real one.
Given a purpose by Marika
That's
to burn down
fascinating.
the Erd Tree. Incidentally, Mesmer too bore a vision of fire, and like Melina, the fire within Mesmer was fated to incinerate a significant tree. Perhaps Marika had learned from Mesmer just what birthing other entities into her children could be used to accomplish.
Look at these two brothers. Look at them. I want a boss fight with her so bad.
But I digress. It's currently unclear whether Marika knew that Mesmer would be cursed from birth, but cursed he was. Cursed to harbour both a wicked serpent and a kindling
Fire.
that would not be extinguished.
Yep.
The serpent in
It's all a Dark Souls reference.
particular filled Marika with such terror that she plucked out his eye and put in its place a seal of grace. Even so, her fear compelled her to secret away her child within the realm of shadow. Now, there is no lore that talks directly about how or why, or even if the malevolent snake was his curse, but the lore surrounding such serpents is fascinating. So let's talk about that and compare these other serpents to Mesmer. Both the serpent hunter.
To be honest, I'm more interested in the fire. I'm more interested in the idea that this is a sequel to Dark Souls and a prequel to Bloodborne.
And the serpent god's curve.
I know there's a theory about the painted world is the Bloodborne, and that's how they're connected. That's not confirmed. I kind of like the idea that as things progress and technology get better, we get Bloodborne.
Sword speak of an immortal serpent deity that once existed in the distant past, worshipped through sacrifice in a long-forgotten religion. A god so feared that a special weapon was forged to hunt it, and what appears to be this same serpent is what eventually devours Rykard, becoming one with him. Now, Mesmer's serpent is physiologically different from the Great Serpent, but there are still some very noteworthy similarities between the two. Like Rykard's, Mesmer's serpent still displays that same propensity to devour the world, stretching its maw over a giant orb, a visual that mirrors the world-devouring serpent depicted upon the Devourer's scepter. So perhaps there is not just one undying serpent, but many? After all, Rykard's concept art shows two unbroken eggs beside the broken shell.
That's true. I was about to say maybe it has like multiple avatars. You know, it's a god. It can have multiple people, but no, there's three eggs.
Shell of the
Huh.
great serpent, a hint perhaps that others were yet to hatch. And as Rykard himself says, it's not the serpent that never dies, but a serpent never dies, suggesting the immortal great serpent was not the only one of its kind. But what else connects this ancient great serpent to Mesmer? Well, we also see winged serpent statues throughout
Yep.
Gelmir, which could suggest a connection to Mesmer's own, and upon the peak, we find snakes embellishing an ancient artifact of the giants, tying serpents.
Yep. This is why I had the theory that he's the son of a giant. Precisely because of this, we see the same type of artwork with the snakes in the giants area. So that plus the red hair, that's why I had that kind of theory.
To the fell god and his flame, which could conceivably be the same flame within Mesmer. And that's a very
That and the fire. Yep.
interesting theory I want to discuss. As a reminder, the fell god is the entity that lurked within the fire giants, and sometimes even within fire itself. Its fire is able to burn the Erd tree, so unsurprisingly it was painted as corrupt and malformed by Queen Marika's regime. The one-eyed shield actually goes so far as to say that it's believed Queen Marika killed this evil deity, but that's probably just another example of Golden Order propaganda. The fell god inhabits the last fire
Yep.
giant when we fight it, so it clearly
Annoying as fucking boss, by the way. It's so annoying. It's not even difficult. It's just fucking annoying that it keeps rolling all the time and I have to keep chasing it.
still lives on, slowly obsessing the minds of the fire monks, who were tasked with watching over its flame of ruin. So it's curious that there are snakes embellishing this ancient bowl of the fell god's fire, but there's more to connect snakes to the fell god. So the giant's flame incantations of the fire monks, you may recall, have really distinct names: O Flame, Whirl O Flame, Burn O Flame, Surge O Flame. This is a common pattern among the incantations of the fire monks, and curiously, this same naming scheme is also present on the serpent flail, a weapon intended to burn Hornsent with coiled snakes, branding them with agony and fear. Its description says nothing about the fell god, but its skill is named Flare, O Serpent, echoing the incantations of the fell god.
Oh. The weapon is a snake. Huh. I never used this. I don't use this. I'm more of a glass cannon kind of build.
God's flame. It's an impressive piece of storytelling to hide a connection to the fell god in the
Yeah.
name of a weapon skill, of all things. Credit to user Call Me Claire for making me aware of this.
Huh, look at that. Like serpent heads impaled. Huh, with a fire nucleus.
Amazing discovery. So is there still any doubt that Mesmer has a connection to the fell god of fire? Mesmer's flame does manifest as an orb, not unlike the literal flame of the fell god.
Yep.
Mesmer's furnace golems, too, were designed to evoke it. Their masks are surrounded by curled horns, depicting the fell god of fire that haunts the sagas of the Hornsent. This was an intentional act of terror by Mesmer to mimic the visage of a god that
Yep.
the Hornsent feared.
Yep, pure psychological warfare. Amazing stuff. This is amazing storytelling.
In the form of these walking furnaces. Sure, this could have been nothing more than a strategy to terrorize his foes, but it
Yep.
feels so significant that it's Mesmer and his flame that brings these avatars of the fell god and its furnaces to life. I just wish we knew more about these Hornsent sagas that spoke of the fell god. The lore on this topic is just so tantalizing. It's just enough for us to start forming theories, but it's not enough for us to land on any one in particular. But there is a fascinating story being teased here of fell flame and serpent gods that could conceivably have crossed paths with Marika and played a part in Mesmer's birth, but how you imagine that story is up to you. For now. Can they announce Elden Ring 2 already? But back to what we know for certain. What we know is that the serpents had an extremely ill reputation in the Age of the Erd Tree, to the point where in the arena gladiators would be adorned with bronze snakes, for the audience delighted in seeing these bronze effigies beaten and battered. Whether this hatred was justified or manufactured by the Erd Tree's order is unknown, but it must have surely shaped Mesmer's life.
Huh. That's a fascinating detail. They purposely put snakes on people who are gonna get hurt because people love to see it. That implies a whole ass history and reasons to hate the snake that we don't know.
His snakes wouldn't exactly have been easy to hide. Sure, they're not visible on the statue of him as a baby, but Mesmer's helm makes it clear that the winged snakes in particular were his constant companions, wise friends which keep the base serpent at bay. That would have been a crucial role, especially before Marika sealed the base serpent away with her grace. The word base in this context means to lack higher qualities, to be morally low or despicable. This is probably in reference to the serpent's desire and its propensity to endlessly devour. The base serpent thus stands in contrast to the winged serpents, which are benevolent by comparison. We get the briefest glimpse of the base serpent behind Mesmer's eye. It appears to be knotted, visually similar to the knot that Rykard's great serpent forms. And in that dark hollow, it's...
I'm gonna be honest, I don't see anything. It's really, really dark.
feeding on something. Mesmer's kindling, a dark thing eaten away at by a wicked serpent. We know a few things about this fire. First, it's ever burning, not unlike the giant's flame. Second, it can burn the sealing tree. Third, it ties Mesmer to Melina, who shares a similarly burning butterfly and kindling that is similarly capable of burning the Erd tree. If I had to guess, it's this ever-burning flame that has caused Mesmer's eternity of suffering, and Mesmer's orb reads, Mesmer despised his own fire. Time and time again he hoped to rid himself of it, but ever did it burn. Time and time again he hoped to rid himself of it. So wait, what exactly was Mesmer doing to rid himself of his flame? I wonder, is it possible that in an attempt to rid himself of his fire, Mesmer could have fed his kindling to the base serpent? This spell does depict the orb that's inside of the serpent's maw, so I wonder if there could be a story being told here. The story of a dark serpent that consumed Mesmer's essence, not unlike the great serpent that consumed Rykard and became one with him. Indeed, Mesmer and the base serpent are one entity, as you can see in Phase 2 of his boss fight. Look closely and you'll notice that the snake shares his greasy red hair and that same savaged right eye.
It's impossible to see that when you're fighting him, it is going too fast. But when you get, like, people who go through all the, the files and stuff, it's the little details, like the dancing figure and people who went through it, and it turns out it's just two guys in a costume. Ugh, so fucking good.
Under this interpretation, the serpent would not have freed him from his flame. Instead, Mesmer's fire would have become serpentine, attaining those serpentine black streaks from the abyssal serpent that had become one with him. But to be clear, this is just speculation. It's entirely possible that Mesmer was just born with the twin snakes and born with the abyssal serpent and his kindling all together. Without learning the circumstances of his birth, we may never know for sure. At some point, Mesmer tried to offer his serpentine fire to his knights, but alas, it would not find purchase within them. I think this phrasing is deliberate, since finding purchase within is wording that Tanith also uses when she wishes that the serpentine Rykard would find purchase within her.
Dear Rykard, please, find purchase within me.
Since it would not inhabit them, Mesmer's knights honored their bond with him by incanting his flame instead. This serpentine fire bends and curls in pursuit of its foes, evoking other pursuit spells like Death Rancor or Hexes from the Souls series. Pursuit spells such as these are typically alive.
God damn it, that fucking spell. That was so fucking annoying. I can one-shot these guys, but they fucking distance kept fucking me up.
In some way,
Yeah.
whether they're vengeful spirits or
Yep.
dregs drawn to life. Mesmer's embers were found all over after the crusade, and they were smouldering as if crawling across the ground. So his fire really does appear to be alive. So alive, in fact, that it can actually substitute the role of a spirit calculus and fit inside a raw burrow to release a boisterous fire sprite. The spirituality of this fire is what led an elder of the Fire Knights, a man named Wago.
Wait, is that a snake? It's a snake color. He's wearing a two-headed snake. Huh.
Fire is what led an elder of the Fire Knights, a man named Wago, to use Mesmer's flame in a rite of resurrection, bringing soulless bodies to life.
Fire, take seat in death
Yep.
and rise again.
Yeah, those guys are annoying. They just run after you. It's so fucking annoying.
This was done in a bid to quell his loneliness, but the walking corpses were of no comfort to the poor man. Interestingly, no lore mentions Marika fearing Mesmer's fire. Rather, it only mentions that she fears the malevolent snake. She so feared it that she plucked out her son's own eye and replaced it with a seal of grace instead. Yet, even having done so, her fear still compelled her to secret away her child within the realm of shadow where he could be hidden. The seal of grace given to Mesmer is a sort of crystal eye engraved with Marika's own Elden rune. It's essentially identical to Marika's Saw seal, which has a description that's particularly relevant to Mesmer and his role in the realm of shadow. That reads, "Solemn duty weighs upon the one beholden, not unlike a gnawing curse from which there is no deliverance." These seals represent the lifelong duty of those chosen by the gods. And to a degree, this seal appears to exert an influence over Mesmer, for it's only when he shatters it that he lets forth his true feelings.
Mother, Marika, a curse upon thee.
Wow. I didn't catch that.
The brilliance of Queen Marika's grace blinds even the very best, after all. Similar to Mesmer's eye is the Iris of Grace, an item that you can find in-game. It features Marika's rune overlaid with an incantation of the Erd Tree, granting a fleeting blessing when placed upon the eye. Its counterpart is the Iris of Occlusion, something that can deny one light in all its forms. In the realm of shadow, these artificers were employed by the
I remember those. I remember asking what the fuck do I do with them, and I didn't find how
priests of the Erd Tree
until I had to look it up in YouTube.
to quell or intensify the fears of their flock to magnificent effect. And speaking of the priests of the Erd Tree, we've heard of them before. The Flask of Wondrous Physic is described as a relic of these same priests, who are said to have been physic chemists, utilizing in their brews crystal dew that would weep from the boughs of minor Erd trees. Marika herself practiced such physic chemistry, and her ultimate creation was the Blessing of Marika, the ultimate healing item. To Mesmer, who likely suffered thanks to the fire within him, these physics offered rare relief. For Marika, once created several of these.
I spent all of them fighting Radagon at the end. God damn it, that fight took me like 3 days.
Physics for Mesmer's sake.
Yeah.
But then, never again. Presumably this mercy ended when Mesmer was sealed away in the realm of shadow. So perhaps there was real affection between the two. For all of Marika's fear, she did offer him relief. Mesmer also had his soldiers and black knights, some of whom he even considered brothers in arms, but perhaps his closest companion was Gaius, described as both Mesmer's
Really?
friend
Him?
and the leader of his men.
Huh.
Like Mesmer, Gaius was as an elder brother to Radahn, and the two trained under the same Alabaster Lord.
Oh shit. I didn't make the connection. Yeah, he's using the same move. Wow.
Whose tutelage led them to discover powerful gravitational sorceries,
Yeah.
products of their friendly rivalry with each other. And just like Mesmer, Gaius was cursed
Friendly rivalry, my ass. This guy was fucking easy compared to Radagon.
from birth.
Sorry. Yeah. You know who I mean.
Was a warrior of Albinoric extraction, and as we know, first-generation Albinorics like this famously have no control of their lower body, relying instead on mounts like wolves, horses, or, in Gaius's case, a boar that was his other half. In spite of this Albinoric curse, or perhaps because of this very reason, there was a kinship between Gaius and Mesmer. Indeed, the lore makes quite a few mentions of Mesmer valuing friends and brothers in arms. He seems to have had a pretty amicable nature, which must have made his fate all the more painful. For
Yeah, he was also known as the Impaler, so I don't feel too bad, to be honest.
on his mother's wishes, Mesmer made himself a symbol of fear, undertaking the cleansing crusade she desired. In doing so, Mesmer declared, "Direct thy maledictions, thine ire, and thy grief towards me alone." Yet Mesmer was not the only one to suffer the consequences of his ill reputation. His Fire Knights, who each and all hailed from a renowned family of the Erd Tree's upper echelons, were shunned and chased from their homes after pledging allegiance to Mesmer as their master. Twinned golden snakes adorn the necks of these knights.
Yep.
Yes, they have the Gold of Order, and yes, these knights are aligned with the Erd Tree, but the snake clearly remains a despised symbol, and allegiance to Mesmer was thus a stain on the
Oh, they are redheads too. Do you see that?
reputations of these
And red
highborn
hair.
families who probably believed their children could do better. Yet the Fire Knights were the only ones who truly knew Mesmer, his flames like serpents, and the painful fate that accompanied his accursed form. A part of this painful fate was likely having to make himself a symbol of fear without ever revealing that truth to the masses, as there was a reason Marika instructed her son to make himself a symbol of fear. It's because she had a task for him, one that she should not be closely associated with, a vile crusade unbecoming of a queen, a purge without grace or honor, a crusade started by Mesmer,
Yep.
son of Marika.
And it was also personal revenge. America just wanted to fuck everyone up. As revenge for what happened to her, so justifiably so.
Have you ever noticed how bored Mesmer sounds in his voice lines?
Those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death in the embrace of Mesmer's flame.
Oh,
Some people have chalked this up to bad voice acting, but
why?
I don't think so. From Software
Why? That was amazing. That's not bad.
has a painstaking process for recording NPC dialogue. There's an excellent interview on that, I'll link in the description, and every line is recorded with Miyazaki himself overseeing the situation. So if
I didn't know that.
Mesmer sounds tired, disinterested, it's deliberate.
Ooh.
And I think it's because they aren't really his words. They're the words of the Crusade. Thus, Mesmer exhaustedly, almost sarcastically, intones the words, even as he faces off against the graceless Tarnished.
O lightless creature, embrace thine oblivion, as shall I.
Now, compare this to the way Queeline speaks, a man who zealously serves the Crusade. So desperate is he to become a second Impaler.
Queen Marika, behold, I have excised another cancer to thy joy.
While the Tarnished are graceless, it's clear that the true targets of the crusade were the Hornsent. For, as you may know, they were the ones who wronged Marika and her kin long ago, and so Mesmer's army burns them with his fire in return, branding them with agony and fear. When I say it like that, it's easy to think that this crusade took place not long after Marika ascended to godhood at the Hornsent's Gate of Divinity, but that can't be right. There had to have been a period of peace between Marika and the Hornsent, a time to set the stage for what was their eventual betrayal. So there's debate over when exactly the crusade took place, but there is a consensus that it must have at least have been some time before Rennala was broken by Radagon abandoning her.
Oh yeah, way before. Keep in mind, her firstborn, who were the Omen, were already hated. So she had already made the change. Like they said, like throughout multiple wars, the golden tree became the only thing, and everything else was despised. So it had to be way before she had the first kids.
For Rennala, Queen of Caria, was lucid enough to give away a lock of her lustrous black hair, a gift to her sister, Rellana, who renounced her lineage to chase after Mesmer and follow him into war. In order to prove her loyalty to the Erd Tree, Rellana entered the arena. Ritual combat was once a custom, performed to honor the Erd Tree, and so she donned her Carian thrusting shield and proved her loyalty alone. It's clear Rellana went on to have a huge impact in the realm of Shadow, and I mean that literally. For here at the town of Morth, the buildings have fallen into the broken earth. The town's linchpin stone, intended to prevent earthquakes, has broken, and one eyewitness account claimed that the moon itself had come tumbling down. This was the impact of Rellana's twin moon. In her youth, she and her elder sister, Rennala, met the twin moons, overlapping as though nestled against one another. So, just as her elder sister had the full moon and Rani had the dark moon, Rellana had the twin moons.
Hold up. Let me say that again.
And Rani had the dark moon, Rellana had the twin moons.
Interesting. Those are I don't use magic ever, so those are details that I missed. That's interesting.
Many Carians pledged to follow Rellana wherever her lunar vessel would take her, and left their homeland behind in this act of unparalleled devotion. The wolf was engraved on the wolf crest shield for them, as a symbol of the moon's pride that none can forget, no matter what remote lands they may arrive in. Ymir was here too.
Yep.
He once instructed Rellana in the sorceress arts and
shit, this fight's fucking amazing.
had an allegiance to the moon, though he would later abandon it, claiming it was merely the closest of the celestial bodies, nothing more. Even the trolls came, sworn to service. Fighting alongside them was Moonrathil, the twin Moon Knight's chamberlain, who was a friend to the trolls, proudly wielding their weapons as she fought arm in arm with her gargantuan comrades. Speaking of the trolls, once the astrologers who studied the night sky were neighbors with the fire giants, and the Sword of Night and Flame was forged to commemorate that unity, a unity between the night sky and the fell god of fire. Those times are long past, but here, in the realm of Shadow, would moon and fire be ever together. For Rellana remained loyal.
So beautiful. Look at that.
To the twin moon and to
Yes.
Mesmer and his flame. Her helmet description claims that she chased
It's so good. I used them for a little bit. They're not that good compared to other weapons, but they look amazing.
after him, which I think suggests that she had an affection for him, just like her elder sister, who also clearly had a thing for men with red hair. But just like Radagon, who would abandon Rennala for Marika, Mesmer doesn't give any signs that he returns R'Lana's affection, nor does he seem comforted by her presence. And R'Lana seems to have anticipated this, as she pursued him, knowing full well that not even the brilliance of the moon could grant him succor. Indeed,
Wow. So it's an unrequited love story. I completely missed that. That's so cool.
keeps to himself, in the dark, brooding over betrayal and the painful fate that his mother left him to fulfill. Sadly, unbeknownst to Mesmer, his mother is long gone, and could not return to him even if she wanted to. A phantom in Castle Ensis laments,
Yeah, he doesn't know.
"O Marika, I beg, embrace your child, and give us a sign. How long must this holy war stretch on?" If it sounds like I've skipped over the actual battle against the Hornsent, you're right, I kind of have. Because I'd argue that the defining element of the war was not the fight against the Hornsent. Everything seems to point to this being a very one-sided battle. No, instead, I think the defining element of this war was how long it was forced to stretch on, leading to the fatigue of all involved. That said, of course, the Hornsent did fight back, with the sculpted keepers, whose lion dance ritual was turned towards martial ends, and with the curse blades, who were a scourge to the Hornsent and the invaders
Oh, these guys are annoying as fuck.
both. But they were ultimately defeated.
Yeah.
The sculpted keepers were impaled and burned in an act witnesses later described as a funeral pyre for the tower itself. And the tower of Anir Elim was sealed away in shadow, sealed by a tree that is actually a scaled-down version of the Shardu tree. Just as Marika and the Two Fingers have control over light, so too do they often wield shadow, and with shadowy thorns encasing Anir Elim, Hornsent culture was broken beyond repair, even if some Hornsent live on. It's as Hornsent himself says.
Indeed, I think it rather plain to see. Things once broken can never be the same.
Before the tower was sealed, it towered over the invaders, and as the people of the Erd Tree sacked the land of the tower, the majesty of the tower was burned into their memory, even inspiring a secret faith in some. Though it was not enough to sway them, for the soldiers who joined the crusade had been showered in runes and rewarded with grace aplenty. Still, the catch was that these soldiers could not be properly honored in death. They would not return to the Erd Tree's roots, and to the faithful citizens of the lands between who hope to cheat death, this is a dire fate indeed. But they still had the Shardu tree, the shadow of the Erd Tree.
Yeah.
The Shardu tree is this enduring curiosity in Elden Ring lore, so omnipresent in the DLC and yet so devoid of any significant detail in the game's many item descriptions. Figuring out when it came to exist has been something I've been trying to puzzle out. In a previous video, I proposed that it came to exist in the moment that Marika sealed away the realm of shadow behind the veil. But I'm starting to change my mind. I'm starting to think that it's been there since the Erd Tree's own beginnings.
I think the same. To me, it doesn't make sense that it came after. It must have been already there.
After all, it's born of dark notions that bear no sense of order, and this duality is the reason grace shines ever so brilliantly. So perhaps there was always the Erd Tree, and this Shardu tree that was everything Marika did not want, and thus the Erd Tree was everything that shone brilliantly. Like the Erd Tree, the Shardu tree still seems to draw from the gold of the Crucible, sap that was proudly collected at the Black Keep, with this giant structure that broadcasts to the entire land that the sap is theirs, and in it went into the chalice of the Shardu tree, where that sap was later scattered to the furnace golems who drop such crystal tears. So, if we assume that the furnace golems of Mesmer's crusade always had the sap of the Shardu tree within them, as the DLC Crystal Tier description states,
Okay.
then the Shadow Tree kind of has to have existed before the start of the war, which the Furnace Golems were created for, and thus the Shadow Tree probably existed alongside the Erd Tree since its inception as well.
Yeah.
Its existence has probably...
And this makes it even more fucked up. Because I mean, America was collecting the sap and preparing and making the golems for years before starting the war, when there was a time of peace. I mean, we've been known she's a bitch, but holy fuck, she's awful.
just been a secret until now. But let me know if you guys think that I'm off base with
No.
that one.
Nope.
To many in the realm of shadow, the image of the misshapen Shadow Tree became an edict, a proclamation that one should spurn all that exists and wound all that exists. So read the thorn spells, which were the sorceries of those who abandoned the practice of incantations after devout.
Yeah, this thing, I thought I was playing on PS4, and it's not the first time I fought a boss with a glitch that they need to patch. Especially because I played the game like the day after it came out. I was so confused when it came out for a third time. The second time I was like, did I not kill it? Is this a patch? And then I fought it again, and then it came back again. I was like, oh yeah, it's a glitch. They need to fix this shit. I'm not gonna be able to kill it.
Sorceries of those who abandoned the practice.
So I just let it kill me, and I left, thinking, oh, they're gonna fix it in a few days. I will come back, not knowing it was actually part of the boss fight.
Of incantations, after devout faith rewarded them with only despair.
Yeah.
Denounce their ways, do them harm, for we have been abandoned.
Yeah. If you guys remember the Spider-Man, the Electro fight had a glitch where no matter how much you fought it, it would never die. So I was stuck fighting Electro for like 20 minutes, and I was thinking, damn, this fight is hard. I was thinking, oh, this is the best fight in the game. Holy shit. Nope, it was a glitch. There was no way to win. Fucking PlayStation.
Blessed bone shards are found throughout Mesmer's fortifications. These are special bone fragments that can be turned into light by the rite of the Golden Vow, which honors the comrades who placed their faith in the distant Erd Tree and gave their lives in the Crusade. Their bone fragments have this power because they've been touched by the gold of the Shadow Tree. It's a reminder of the Shadow Tree's power, and indeed there's something to be said for merely being in its presence. Take the shadow sunflowers, for example, which only bloom when facing the Shadow Tree and are suffused with profound holiness, much akin to the Shadow Tree itself. Thus, to be hidden from the Shadow Tree's sight would be a severe indictment of an individual, and one such instance of this exists with Mesmer's soldier ashes, which read, "These soldiers belonged to the ignoble penal battalion, and were buried hidden from the Shadow Tree's sight." An ignoble penal battalion would have been a unit comprised of disgraced soldiers, warriors assigned to fight as a form of punishment maybe, or perhaps as a path to redemption. If it's the latter, the fact that their ashes were disgraced with a hidden burial would be all the more tragic. Now, it's unclear whether all of Mesmer's soldiers comprised the penal battalion, or whether it was just these two, but I'm inclined to think it was just them. Either way, It's very interesting that Mesmer was willing to send the guilty to war, especially if you believe that Mesmer was a part of the war against the giants.
Nope.
Because that
I
war,
don't.
or the aftermath at least, involved the sinful thorn sorcerers as well. The Shadow Tree is all many in the realm of shadow have left. The armor of those soldiers, as well as the Black Knights, has a gold Shadow Tree motif engraved on the chest plate. It was a small consolation to those forced to wage a war without grace or honor. Yet, for some, the Shadow Tree wasn't enough. In a small cave on Shadu Altus, a fledgling Erd tree grows, surreptitiously being tended to by the most proficient of gardeners, perfumers.
Okay.
And elsewhere, another golden tree grows in a courtyard of the Shadow Keep. These are akin to minor Erd trees or illusory trees, which early in the age of the Erd tree likely were not around, as the Erd tree was thought to have been perfect and eternal, and thus was it believed that Erd tree seeds could not exist. But exist they did, scattering across the various lands when the Elden Ring was shattered, as if life itself knew that its end had come. And in that moment, too, did the Erd tree avatars emerge from the minor Erd trees, determined to protect the withering Erd tree's offspring.
Yep.
So, for a long time, I thought that minor Erd trees across the entire lands between only came to exist when golden seeds flew from the Erd tree in the wake of the shattering. But that can't be true, because then how could these trees be here? The shattering happened after this realm was split off for the Crusade, so the trees here must have been planted before the shattering.
Not necessarily. The Earth tree, it spreads, the roots go all the way to the dungeons and it keeps going across the entire planet. So it wouldn't be surprising if it spread underground, like the roots brought it to the dark side. That wouldn't be surprising.
Right? Unless you believe that people and things like Erd tree seeds could be brought across the veil, in which case a lot of the timeline becomes extremely complicated. Anyway, now I think that the Age of Plenty with the Erd tree came swiftly to a close, and then minor Erd trees like these were grown all across the lands, with their sap being collected in basins by the physic chemists. I think one of these trees was even grown here in the Shadowkeep itself, where we can see Hornsent, loyal to the Erd tree, are accustomed to praying. But this tree that the perfumers tend to is smaller, suggesting I think that it was grown more recently, perhaps after the perfumers were brought to the realm of shadow. Gardening certainly wasn't what they were brought here to do. The crusade was a violent purge, and the perfumers were not called there to heal. Still, near the perfumers, we loot Heal from Afar, which is an Erd tree incantation discovered in the realm of shadow. It reads, "Even when far beyond, far out of sight, the Erd tree will surely give us its blessing." Their faith persists, but their practices suffer, because Erd tree enchantments are all but a lost art in the realm of shadow, and truthfully, even the faithful have begun to suspect how bad things are outside. For when the Elden Ring was shattered, the people of the realm of shadow felt it too, and feared it as a sign of the Erd tree's wrath. This is information learned from an incantation that's found in the rafters of the specimen storehouse, so it's hidden way out of sight. And I imagine that the shattering might have been one truth too many for the people of the realm of shadow, whose faith was already waning. Indeed, it's rare to find a statue of Marika in this place that is not defaced, literally. A phantom in the Shadowkeep gives voice to this wavering.
Gosh, the amount of suffering that Marika created. It's insane. I know I said I didn't feel bad for Mesmer, but considering the seal was also affecting him, I do kind of feel bad. It's kind of sad that he took so long to reach his breaking point. It took us getting to the Earth tree. Wow.
No, such a thing is utterly inconceivable. We have not been abandoned. Mesmer is the son of Queen Marika. Her grace would never abandon her own flesh and blood. Maybe...
Right. Alright. I would say she has she ever not done that? Ever? To any of them? Rani? Godwin, who she planned killing Apparently, that might have been her plan. I don't know.
Maybe this is why there needed to be a fort of reprimand, a place where many were reprimanded.
Yeah.
Even those blessed with America's own grace were hunted down and slain, like Omen. But remarkably, rebellion did rise, from a Black Knight of all people. The Black Knights were the primary force of Mesmer's army, with weighty shields meant to symbolize their iron conviction in the crusade. The Black Knights will never yield, nor will they ever doubt their purpose. Wishful thinking, for the Black Knights didn't even fully understand the nature or potential of the impurity they were facing. Thus does the Pearl Shield Talisman boost all types of non-physical damage reduction, because they were forced to prepare for all threats known or unknown.
Mm-hmm.
A rotten stench clung to their helmets, which were tainted by horn-scent blood, or, for all they knew, tainted by their own blackened souls, festering after endless slaughter. Is it any surprise then that once the dust had settled, the Black Knights began to question their purpose? Their first leader was Andreas, a man endowed with great strength and command over the powers of the Crucible. A Japanese description here makes it clear that, like the other soldiers in the
What the heck was that skill? He brought someone to get
endowed with
closer.
great strength and command over the
Oh, it's like a frog dome thingy. Huh.
powers of the Crucible. A Japanese description here makes it clear that, like the other soldiers in the war, Andreas was driven away from the Erd Tree, but that, despite being a devout follower of Mesmer, he would rebel after learning of his liege's serpentine nature. This is strange, considering the winged serpent is literally the token creature of Mesmer's military forces.
Yeah, that's strange.
So surely it was obvious that Mesmer had a serpentine nature. Either Andreas was totally oblivious, or he glimpsed something deeper, or more disturbing. Maybe he glimpsed the abyssal serpent. We know this happened sometime after the divine beast hunt, thanks to the ashes of Andreas's son, Hugh, who afterwards followed his father, Andreas, into rebellion against Mesmer, only to be rewarded with imprisonment in an underground tomb. Mesmer mourned.
Oh, he's fucking asshole. I remember him. Wow, that's crazy. I didn't read the descriptions. I have no idea.
The loss
That's such
of
a good
brother in
connection.
arms. How bad must the snake's reputation have been for it to have made Mesmer's most devout knights rebel? It wasn't the shrieks of sorrow from those they were killing. It wasn't the horror of the crusade itself. Instead, it was their commander's serpentine nature. I guess to many of the Erd Tree, the crusade itself was beyond questioning, for they were certain of the sanctity of their campaign and invigorated by each cry of death. But Mesmer was a different matter entirely. Ironically, it was actually those closest to Mesmer, his Fire Knights, who questioned the crusade on moral grounds. One of them still stands guard at the bridge to Roar, risking his life to protect an old ruin.
Rain of fire.
This is Saltzer, the sage, disciple of the elder Wago, who we mentioned earlier. Saltzer asked, if we reduce to ash this land against which we hold no grievance, no ill will, are we any better than barbarians?
Wow.
And his disdain for barbarism
Wow, at least there was one person questioning stuff.
never waned, even as he burned more villages and scorched more land than any other. I suspect it was Saltzer who prevailed upon Mesmer to create the specimen storehouse within the Black Keep, a place for the preservation
Such a cool place. I kept finding new paths and new hidden stuff. It's such a good place. Holy shit.
of Hornsent culture, a museum of sorts, actually tended to by loyal Hornsent scholars, folk of burned body and soul, who, ironically, incant coils of Mesmer's own fire, the same fire thrown by Mesmer's rank and file soldiers. A dear friend of Salza was the Fire Knight, Hilda, who joined those that urged that the specimens be preserved. And so, Hilda's ashes were enshrined here, a charm to protect the storehouse. Mesmer, for his part, showed his compassionate side within the Black Keep as well, curating a wing dedicated to the care of the Jar Saints, the shaman, his kin, who were tortured by the Hornsent long ago. Though it has long fallen into ruin, it's a reminder of the real reason for the crusade against the Hornsent, a cycle of vengeance that goes on and on,
Yep.
of curses realized and placed anew.
Such a good fight. Yep. Die.
Mother. Marika. A curse upon thee.
And he dies reaching out. Ah.
As we close out this video, I'd like to go over a few topics that are more open to interpretation. I'd like to talk about who Mesmer's soldiers might have been in an age long past, what the Black Keep might have meant, and why the serpent skin in Bonnie Village might be there. To begin, there was a time before Marika's ascent to godhood where the realm of shadow was not separate, but rather simply a part of the lands between. Back then, here roamed the Highlanders, fierce axe-wielding warriors who hunted bears and chased glory. In our previous video, I discussed their connection to Hoaralou, their greatest warrior, who would later abandon his Highlander roots to become Elden Lord Godfrey. And naturally, I suspect many of his Highlander kin followed suit, leaving their past behind. Yet, perhaps traces remain in the men who became Mesmer's soldiers. Though they now serve the Impaler, wielding spears, I suspect there's more to them than meets the eye, for, like Godfrey, they favor axes. Like Godfrey, they specialize in charge attacks, and like Hoaralou, they roar, and like Hoaralou, they can shake the earth itself with their stomp attacks. So, were these Highlanders drafted into Mesmer's ranks after Godfrey became Elden Lord? Or did their culture simply evolve over time? Or am I completely wrong? Now, I feel pretty confident, at least putting forward.
Yeah, the fact that they use the same attacks, a clear connection. Not entirely sure. Yes, well, technically the main character, is supposed to be one of those who marched with Godfrey and left after losing the grace. So this would technically be like our brethren, in a way.
Forward this theory, considering we never see the old Highlanders as an enemy type in-game. So I love the theory that they might have slipped into becoming something else in the Age of Godfrey, a people aligned with grace, though later they would become divorced from it. To them, the grace of gold would be a distant memory. Mesmer's Black Knights, too, seem tied to the land that they would later forever occupy. According to Ashes, they had command over the powers of the Crucible, which flourished in this region. Godfrey's Crucible Knights, too, were in tune with the powers of the Crucible, and since we can place Godfrey's heritage in this region, it makes sense that we might be able to trace his Crucible Knights back here as well. So, if all of these factions were long-standing in this area, who's to say the structures in the Realm of Shadow weren't long-standing too? This brings us to the Black Keep, for it also contains signs of an older culture, one related to death, as it was in the age before the Erd Tree. Here in the Black Keep, Mesmer is cremating his warriors, turning their remains into light. But what's curious is that this ritual is taking place within boats, funerary boats that are an exact match for those piloted by the Tibia Mariners, the oldest gravekeepers and boatsmen who can summon the dead. We've learned a little bit more about the Mariners in the Shadow of the Erd Tree. Interestingly, they're quite sad beings, The polterstone is this contrivance they devised, and it creates a noise imitative of human presence where it lands, which was used by the gravekeepers to distract themselves from their longing for company.
That's sad.
But the most important piece of lore for them isn't an item description, it's a place, Caro's hidden grave, where one riverboatsman remains, watching over those at rest. What's important here is the name Caro, for Charon is a figure from Greek myth, the ferryman of the underworld, whose role is to transport the souls of the dead across the river Styx. This confirms what we've long suspected, that the mariners are a guiding lantern in the mist to the dead, who are in sore need of leadership and have long been left to wander. So the similarity of the boats used by the mariners and Mesmer suggests the Black Keep might have had a deeper tie to the culture of death in this land. But that's not the only connection. Helfin's steeple is an extremely curious item that was dropped by a mariner in the base game. It's a greatsword patterned after the black steeple of the Helfin, the lampwood which guides the dead of the spirit world. For years we've wondered what the Helfin might be exactly, and now we have another theory to add to the list.
Okay.
What if the Helfin was once the Black Keep? As I learned from Quelaag in her video about the Shadowlands, Helfin's serrated steeple kind of looks like the jagged steeples of the Black Keep.
Huh. I'm gonna have to check that video out. Yeah, it does.
Making us wonder whether this keep had a different role in the past, and that it might have been a place that was simply taken over by Mesmer rather than being built by him. While a lot of this is circumstantial evidence and speculation, you can't deny that there's signs of older traditions enduring here. The Highlanders, the Helfin, funerary rites, the Serpent's reputation, it's these things that make the world of Elden Ring feel real and lived in, even across all of the ages that we don't get to witness in-game. Let's end this video with one of the biggest secrets in the DLC, the shed serpent skin found by Bonnie Village. Man, what is it with From Software and leaving us unanswerable questions about serpents at the end of their DLCs? I'm not going to pretend to know
What?
questions about
Dark Souls 3 official artbook. Okay, I was about to say, I don't remember that being in the game.
serpents at the end of their DLCs. I'm not going to pretend to know exactly what's going on with it yet. Instead, I'm going to leave you with a few observations and let those inspire your conclusions. My first note is that the serpent skin is found near the statue that reveals the Oh Mother emote, which you later use to gain access to the shaman village.
Yep, and if it wasn't for... I spent so much time exploring. How the hell do I get to the center? I just gave up and had to look it up. I was never gonna figure out how the hell to use the emote. Same thing with the dragon area in Dark Souls 3. Who finds that shit? Who figures that shit out?
Hidden behind the Black Keep. For this statue to be so close to the serpent, I think suggests a connection to either Mesmer or Marika. My second point is that this serpent is not physiologically similar to Mesmer's serpent. Rather, it's a perfect match for the god-devouring serpent's visage, and Igle as well, for that matter. As a reminder, Igle is that flayed serpent skin that's spread over the altar in her church at Gelmir, and below it we
I
loot
already
the
remember
serpent's amnion, an item that's tied to Raya, who was the poor unwanted offspring of this repellent birthing ritual. It's a common trend in Elden Ring for smaller NPC stories to mirror and help explain more important stories, and so I wouldn't be surprised if Raya's repellent birthing ritual could help to explain the circumstances of Mesmer's own birth, and what's going on with the serpent that took root inside of him. Perhaps Mesmer was born of a repellent birthing ritual as well. It's also worth noting that a godskin dwells in the Church of Igle, which could in turn suggest a connection to the Glowmite Queen. The godskins are somewhat serpentine, with bodies that can stretch much in the same manner as a man-serpent's.
Mm-hmm.
The Godskin noble robe states that nobles are the most ancient apostles, who are said to have assimilated inhuman physiology, not unlike the Crucible. And there's even a spirit-calling snail,
Yep.
which is actually a serpent,
Yep.
that summons Godskins in your battle with it in the Spirit Caller Cave. That's a fair amount of overlap, but it's impossible to
That fight is funny as fuck. When you beat all of them and then you see another fucking bar, it's just a snake. It's such a funny moment.
be sure. If you'd like to share what this story might look like to you, drop your ideas in the comments, and I'll pin my favorite interpretation at the top for everyone to read. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And I'll see you in the next one.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Wait, there's people who think Mesmerising acting was bad. Yeah, I thought it was fucking amazing. Putting out the Snake Raker merch with a... I don't know. What's interesting about the carcass and the one in the church, is that there's 3 eggs. So we know at least 2. So there's 1 we don't know. So could be. I haven't seen this, by the way. I guess it could be that. I don't know. So fucking good. I love this. I live for this. This is just top tier.